نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. We continue on Friday, December 14, 2018, 6:48 p.m., which agrees now, I think we're in Rabi' al-Thani. Wow, time is flying. We are now in Rabi' al-Awwal. We finish Rabi' al-Thani on the Islamic calendar. What is this? What is this now says? Well, now Rabi' al-Thani, now we're in the sixth night, technically. Rabi' al-Thani, the year 1440 after the Hijrah of Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam. And I can't believe it, we're Rabi' al-Thani already. Wow. As we continue kitaab-attawheed, ya ma'ashar al-ikhwa, it's the fifth of Rabi' al-Thani. It's not like it's the first, the fifth. Wow. That's wild at time. Like, sixth, excuse me, technically it's the sixth of Rabi' al-Thani. The sixth night. Like, so ya ma'ashar al-ikhwa, as we continue in kitaab-attawheed, we stopped at the ayah, or the chapter, speaking about the guidance in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in his hands only, that he has total control over. For the guidance of the heart and success and one being allowed to be given the success or inspired towards what is good is in the hands of Allah Ta'ala. Even though the will of Allah is over all of the creation, and at the same time we know that the abd, that the servant has his will. And the will of the creation follows behind the will of Allah Ta'ala. So the will, we establish the will of Allah, which is total domination of his creation, and everything you can think possible. And even we affirm for the abd, for the servant, likewise his mashi'ah, or his will. But like we said, the will of the creation falls behind the will of the creator, subhanahu. The abd, as we know, is not only in need of guidance in his religion, and him being given success. He's given success in his religion only. Rather, the abd, the service, is coming upon to ask Allah to also guide him in his worldly affairs. Now, some people think that hidayah is only restricted to just what? It's just restricted to his religion, of being given success in his religion, of being a person that's pious, or being a person that does righteousness and abstains from what is prohibited. But it's incumbent upon the abd, when he requests hidayah, that he also asks Allah Ta'ala to take command of his affairs worldly, and ask him for that guidance too. To be guided in making proper decisions in regards to his life, in regards to, for example, of different ventures or a business venture, or something that's pertaining to marriage or marrying certain women. All those affairs, a person totally submits himself to Allah, will ask Allah for him to be guided in all of those affairs. So he could be what? He been given tawfiq in everything, not just in his religion, but also in his worldly matters. Because that's total submission of letting your Lord Ta'ala being the one who protects you in every aspect and in every affair in your life, not just in your religion, but even in affairs that are worldly. Because certain things that are worldly can affect you in your religion. And it could be a what? It could be something detrimental or something that will influence or affect your life. Marrying a wrong woman can affect your life. Just like marrying a wrong man can affect your life. It can also affect your religion. Indulging inside of certain affairs and business and trade can also likewise affect your religion. If you indulge in transactions that are unlawful. For a person always ask Allah Ta'ala for the guidance in all of his affairs. That's why you'll find the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he used to say the dua that he encouraged his ummah to say, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum bi rahmatika astaghith, aslih li sha'ni kullahu. Aslih li sha'ni kulla la ilaha illa ant. Allahumma rahmatika arju, fala takinni ila nafsi tarfata ayn, aslih li sha'ni kulla la ilaha illa ant. You find that the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that he used to encourage his ummah to make this dua. And a lot of these supplications of the Messenger of Allah, we should try to memorize to the best of our ability, because it will be a reason, inshallah, for us to be guided in all of our affairs, to be guided in our worldly affairs and our religious affairs together. But the way one attains that is by memorizing as much as he can of the authentic supplications of the Prophet ﷺ, because they are Jawami al-Kalam, and they are the ones that gather between all good, and it is summarized and concise, so one can gather all of that which is good, all of the good. And it's a comprehensible dua that gathers everything in short words, but the meanings are tremendous of what it covers. From those dua is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum bi rahmatika astaghith. By your rahmah, I seek your istighatha. Rectify all of my affairs. So then the Prophet ﷺ just mentioned religiously. He also mentioned every affair. Aslih li sha'ni kullahu. La ilaha illa ant. Rectify all of my affairs. None has the right to be worshipped except you. And another narration, Allahumma rahmataka arju, fala takilni ila nafsi, tarfata aynin. You saw, oh my Lord, for the mercy I hope, do not leave me to myself, a blink of an eye. None has the right to be worshipped except you. Do not leave me to myself. Meaning, do not leave me to what? To those decisions that I have to make. And you know and have all knowledge of what is what? The final outcome of what would be good for me. It doesn't matter whether it be an affair of what? That which is pertaining to the religion, or affairs pertaining to that which is worldly. For those affairs, gather between all of it. For that guidance that one asks, you ask Allah to guide you in all those affairs. And by one asking Allah Ta'ala, he makes and memorizes these supplications, then he what? Implements them. By reading them after Fajr, or by reading them after Asr, or reciting them in his sujood, in salah. Making all of these supplications will be a means for one attaining all of these benefits and all these good that the message of Allah ﷺ that said will come as a result of accepting and implementing this fortified, or this protection that will be fortified, that in order to what? Protect you against all evil, and at the same time attaining all what is good, of what will benefit your religion and benefit your worldly affairs. Because one always wants Allah to be over his affairs, to guide him what is best in everything. Because if you're left to yourself, you're destroyed. And that's what the message of Allah said in this supplication. He said that, do not leave me to myself a blink of an eye. Meaning, because we know that the abd, if he's left to himself, a blink of an eye, he's destroyed. If he's left to himself, a blink of an eye, he's destroyed. So you asking Allah to take charge of all of your affairs, so you could be guided in all what is good in this world as well as in the hereafter. That type of hidayah, ma'ash al-ikhwa, is tawfiq from Allah, that one can only attain by memorizing these supplications and implementing them. Of course. And there's so many that could be counted and enumerated of what comes in the authentic sunnah that one should memorize. One should do his best to try to memorize those supplications, then implement them, reading them after Fajr, and reading them after Asr, reading them when he leaves out the house, reading them when he gets in the car, reading them when he comes in the house, reading them when he wears his clothes, reading them when he goes in the market. All of these is a type of fortification, protection that Allah will give you in all instances, in all circumstances. For wallahi, brothers, I've seen certain weird things that have happened in my life that I've seen that Allah protected me from a lot of evils. A lot of evils because of me trying to do my best to guard Allah, meaning by asking Allah constantly for His help, by implementing these supplications. Because by that way, you will now actualize your ubudi of Allah. Because the more you become complete as a human being, the more you submit yourself to Allah ta'ala, by you asking His help and Him giving you tawfiq. That tawfiq can only be actualized, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, by what I just mentioned, which is what? By the ilm, by memorization and implementation, and then having firm surety that these affairs are going to benefit. These affairs are going to benefit, and they will. But if you memorize these supplications, Allah ta'ala will give you tawfiq. Not only tawfiq in your world, your religious, like I said, your religious affairs, but even in regards to having knowledge of your health, have a knowledge of medical, have a knowledge of other things. Open your mind up to other different things and opening your insight to it. Allah will start to open up things for you. You'll start to see haqq, and you will start to dislike and totally despise batil in every aspect. But that can only be attained, what everyone? By, like we said, by, or one of the ways, is by this knowledge that we learn and also by the supplications. So like we said, ya ma'ashal al-ikhwa, the hidayah of Allah ta'ala is in His hands only, of the heart, of what He gives insight, in which Allah ta'ala that He creates inside of the heart of the abd, of hidayah and tawfiq and success in guiding the heart and turning it to guidance after it's been in the state of misguidance. And you'll find, like we said, the examples of that which comes in this book is that we stopped in and we talked about how the Messenger of Allah sallallahu tried to guide his uncle, in which you actualized the second category, which we talked about, which is called Hidayat al-Bayan wal-Irshad, if you look in your books. But the Prophet ﷺ, that he actualized the second category, which was what? Of direction and clarification. But Allah ta'ala, His infinite wisdom necessitated that Abu Talib would not accept the truth. That Abu Talib would not accept the truth. Rather, he died in a state, like we said, of disbelief, in which you'll find that some of Ahl Ilm had said that in order to teach the people who comes after the message of Allah from his ummah, to show that no matter how much a person that the truth is shown to them and is clarified to them and is presented to them in the most clearest manner, ultimately the hidayah is with Allah ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala places hidayah in the heart of who deserves it. And who is what? Who is for it and from its people. And that there will be a reason for why hidayah will be held back. It will be prevented from certain people. You'll find, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, you'll find that Ahl Ilm say that one of the reasons of why hidayah, meaning of the heart, why one could be deprived of it is due to certain reasons. One of the reasons, as we mentioned last class, is what they call a ta'assub lil-batil, having that blind fanaticism for falsehood, and having what they call that blind type of fanaticism, what they call hamiyya jahiliyyah. Hamiyya jahiliyyah. As I said last class, hamiyya jahiliyyah. Hamiyya jahiliyyah is like that pre-Islamic blind fanaticism that people would cling to and stick to, and they don't want to leave it. It's just based upon something that their forefathers or their ancestors used to practice, and that's it. Knowing that they know truly in their minds that what they're doing is totally incorrect, or they have some doubt in it. But they're just doing it just because their ancestors and what? And their forefathers and those who preceded them in the past did it. No more, no less. And just having that blind fanaticism for something that is totally false is what they call hamiyatun jahiliyyah. Hamiyatun jahiliyyah. You'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this characteristic and how it was the reason why people ended up in hell forever. What was the reason why they they ended up in the hellfire forever? It was because of this characteristic called hamiyatun jahiliyyah. The hamiyatun jahiliyyah, Allah ta'ala mentions that in His book, where He talks about the disbelievers as a result of them rejecting the truth because of some blind fanaticism, meaning just sticking to something with no clear arguments or no clear proofs, just because my family did it. Even though it comes crystal clear what they're upon was misguidance, but just because my forefathers did it, my family did it, I know what is correct. I know it sounds incorrect. I know that what you're saying is correct. I know what you're trying to tell me and clarify to me is correct. And I truly somewhere have doubt in what I believe. But at the end of the day, this is what my grandmother did, this is what my grandfathers did, this is what my ancestors did, this is what I'm doing. You'll find that Allah ta'ala, as a result of that way of thinking, Allah gives a punishment for that. That punishment is that He increases them in misguidance even more. You'll find that the great Imam, Shaykh Salih Fawzan, Ibn Abdullah al-Fawzan, where's your book? Where's your kitaab-attawheed at? Okay, you know where we are. Chapter 18. You'll find that Allah ta'ala, that He mentions in His book about the reasons. Shaykh Salih Fawzan, he gives a tremendous benefit of this, what we're explaining now. He said, for one of the reasons why you'll find that the people are given a punishment of being deprived of guidance of the heart is because of this. Listen what he says. التعصب للباطل وحمية الجاهلية. Notice that he said it. حمية الجاهلية, that blind fanaticism or that enthusiasm of clinging to something with no proof or evidence, just because my forefathers did it, or just because my ancestors did it. When you ask, well, what's the proof of it? There is no proof. I'm just doing it because. Right. And even if they presented the proof, you'll still find that the proof is still what? Incorrect. It's still baseless, what they rely upon. But even though, despite of that, they still what? Cling to it. Listen to what the great Imam says. May Allah preserve him and also allow him to remain upon life and benefit the people. Listen to what Shaykh Salih Fawzani says. تسبب أن الإنسان لا يوفقه الله جل وعلا فمن تبين له الحق ولم يقبله فإنه يعاقب بالحرمان. He said, for blind fanaticism to falsehood and hamiyatul jahiliyyah, and I'll just explain what the meaning of hamiyatul jahiliyyah. He says it will cause that a person, that Allah will not give him tawfiq. La yuwaffiquhu Allah. Allah will not give him tawfiq in his heart. Whereas, if it was made clear to him, he will not accept it. If it was made clear to him, he will not what? He will not accept it. For verily, he will be punished by deprivation. يُعَاقَبُ بِالْحُرْمَانِ. He will be punished by deprivation. Deprivation of what, everyone? Deprivation of what? Guidance of what? Guidance of the heart. Guidance of success. يُعَاقَبُ بِالْحُرْمَانِ وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. يُعَاقَبُ بِالزَّيْغِ وَالضَّلَالِ. He will be given the punishment of what? Of being misguided and being misled. He says he will not accept the truth after that. Which is to show what, everyone? It's to show and give an encouragement that whoever the truth reaches, that he accepts it directly, instantly. يَقْبَلُهُ مُبَاشَرَةً. You'll find that the majority of the people, when it reaches the truth, reach them, they become arrogant and belligerent. You understand, everyone? Which is a reason and a punishment for what? For one, when the result of that is one being punished by deprivation. He says, وَلَا يَتَلَكَّأُ وَلَا يَتَأَخَّرُ. He doesn't procrastinate, nor does he put it off, being late and accepting it. He says, because if he's late and he rejects it due to ignorance or arrogance, he will be given this punishment of deprivation, being deprived. That's the reason why you'll find that Allah Ta'ala says in Surah As-Saf, in Surah As-Saf, that Allah Ta'ala says, فَلَمَّا زَاغُوا إِيش أَزَاغَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُم. That Allah Ta'ala says in His book, in Surah As-Saf, when they chose misguidance, became arrogant, rejected the truth, Allah what? When they became misled, Allah misled their hearts. So what was the reason? Clinging to something of falsehood with no what? No evidence, no proof, just mere belligerence and arrogance, looking down upon one. And you'll find that the reasons for one being taken away from the truth are many that cannot be counted. From them is just being arrogant. From them is looking down on the person. From them is them being poor and them being from those who are living in opulence. It's a lot of reasons why people reject the truth. But all in all, if the person rejects the truth, then Allah Ta'ala will what? Give him the punishment of being misled and being deprived of proper guidance and being guided in the heart. That's why you'll find that Allah Ta'ala mentions that in His book in Surah As-Saf. I don't know the number of the ayah right now. But Allah Ta'ala says in His book, فَلَمَّا زَاغُوا أَزَاغَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُم. When they went astray, Allah set their hearts astray. Also, Allah Ta'ala says in His book, in another ayah, and I think it's in Surah Al-A'raf, and I'm going to check later, He says, وَنُقَلِّبُ أَفْئِدَتَهُم وَأَبْصَارَهُم كَمَا لَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهِ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ وَنَظَرُهُم فِي طُغْيَانِهِمْ يَعْمَهُونَ. Allah Ta'ala says in His book, He says that we flip their hearts. We flip their hearts and their insight. What was the reason? Because they didn't believe the first time. كَمَا لَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهِ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. And we lead them in their misguidance to go deeper and deeper in it. So Allah Ta'ala clearly shows in these ayat clearly that Allah has His will and the creation likewise has their what? They have their will to choose. Both. And the will of the creation falls behind the will of the Creator. What was you going to say, Camden? What was you going to ask me? No, you was going like this. It doesn't write? Your pen doesn't write? Give it a pencil. You give it a pencil. Could you get him and give him? You got to give it to EB. Pass it off to EB, huh? You know, oh, he needs this. Oh, here, give it to him. طيب. So yeah, you see, ya ma'ashal ikhwa. So it says in the ayah that all of this is a reason for what? For one being deprived of proper guidance, which is ta'assub lil-batil. One being blind or clinging to falsehood, or being a blind fanatic of something that's totally baseless. Nothing that substantiates it of evidence or proof. Just because. That's it. You'd be like, why you believe that? Just because something my mom did, my praying father did. And the majority of the people who became from the inhabitants of hell, that will be the excuse. Your big excuse will be because my grandfathers, my forefathers, my ancestors, they did this, I do it. What's the evidence? What's the proof? Oh, I know that the proof, it does sound doubtful. It doesn't make too sense. But this is, I feel comfortable with what I'm doing. And like we talked about, Ya Ma'ashal Ikhwa, Allah Ta'ala mentions this in His book of the reasons why the people will be from the inhabitants of hell because of this type of ideology and this type of belief. You'll find in so many ayats, Allah Ta'ala talks about this book. In this book, He says, وقالوا إلا قال مترفوها إنا وجدنا آباءنا على أمة وإنا على آثارهم مهتدون قال أولو جئتكم بأهدى مما وجدتم عليه آباءنا قال إن بما أرسلتم به كافرون. Subhanallah. That Allah Ta'ala talks about in His book. He said, وما أرسلنا من رسول وما أرسلنا في قرية من نذير إلا قال مترفوها إلا وجدنا آباءنا على أمة وإنا على آثارهم مقتدون. He said, we did not send a warner to any village or any place, except those who lived in a state of opulence or rich. They said, verily we found our forefathers upon this. And verily in their path we emulated. We traverse upon that path. Then the Messenger of Allah clearly said to them, He said, say to them, Allah Ta'ala says, what I came with for clear guidance, isn't that better and more better guidance of what you found your forefathers upon? And they knew the truth in the back of their minds. And listen to what they say out of arrogance and belligerence and haughtiness. They said, for verily what you've been sent with, we disbelieve in it. Which is what? It's to clearly show that this is just blind fanaticism and it's holding on to something that's false just because. No other reason. You even find that some of them used to say in this poetry, they used to say, إِذَا مَا صَحِبْتَ الْقَوْمَ فَاصْحَبْ خِيَارَهُمْ وَلَا تَصْحَبِ الْأَرْضَ فَتَرْدَى مَعَ الرَّدَى. They used to say in their poetry, they said, if you was to take us as companions of people, take as your companions the best of them. It doesn't matter whether they're upon falsehood or not. It doesn't matter. He says, because if you take along with yourself as a companion the most pathetic, the arda, he said, then you will be pathetic along the most lowliest of people. So that was to show that what? That from their hujjaj, or the arguments and proof, which also likewise is utilized today to say that so-and-so is upon the truth or so-and-so is upon falsehood, was based upon something worldly or based upon status. That if you was calling to this, why is the lowliest of people following you in it? And why is it people who's what? Impoverished. Why is it people from the indigent following you? What you're upon must be what? Incorrect. Because people that doesn't have a lot of wealth are not following you in this. Or people who's not rich is not following you in this. All these are from the affairs of Jahiliyyah that Allah Ta'ala mentioned in this book of the reason why people was misguided. You understand, everyone? And you see the same exact thing happening today. No different. The affairs of Jahiliyyah just what? Reoccurs from time to place in every generation. Just renews itself for a different time, different place, same ideology. Is it clear what I'm saying so far, everyone? Is it clear? طيب. So you'll find that the message of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, that when he said this to his uncle, Abu Talib, he said this to his uncle, which is also to show, like we talked about before, that Abu Talib knew the correct meaning of La ilaha illallah. He knew the correct meaning of La ilaha illallah. That he knew that the meaning of La ilaha illallah, even though he was a mushrik, and he died in the state of kufr. He died in the state of disbelief. Abu Talib. Despite of what the Sufis say, and what some of the people of Dalal say, which we'll talk about in a minute, inshaAllah, they'll still say regardless, and people who are upon myths, and so-called folklores, or what they would say, storytell, or being storytellers, or what have you, or those who so-called recite stories, you'll still find them rejecting these ahadith. You'll say that Abu Talib is from the people of paradise, despite of what this narration says. The hadith clearly shows that Abu Talib, his own uncle, died in the state of what, everyone? He died in the state of disbelief, clearly. For Abu Talib, you'll find that when Abu Talib rejected the wahi, he rejected it is because of what we just mentioned here, as we talked about. There was no other reason why he rejected it except for what we just said, right here. Him clinging and being a blind fanatic of something that's totally incorrect and baseless. And nothing substantiates it of any evidence whatsoever. And despite of that, he hung on to it, clung to it, died upon it. Until he became from the inhabitants of hell forever. But the only thing that benefited him was the shafa'ah of the message of Allah for his punishment to be lightened, not for him to be removed. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? The punishment was to be lightened, not to be removed. But the punishment of the light part of the hellfire, as the message of Allah said in other narrations, that I thought he was the worst of those being punished. And he was the lightest. As it says in one narration, alayhi na'lan yaghli minhuma dimaghu. ولولا شفاعتي لكان من أسفلي لكان في الدرك الأسفلي من النار. He says that he mentioned a narration and he said that he is in the lightest part of hell, that he's wearing two shoes in which his brain will be boiling from. And he says, and if it wasn't for shafa'ah, he would have been in the lowest part of hell. So you find, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, that Abu Talib, despite of him knowing the truth clearly, without any shadow of a doubt, clear as the sun in the sky, witnessed the message of Allah, knew his reputation before the wahi started, knew that his son was not a liar, knew that his son came from the best of lineages, Rather, the Messenger of Allah came from a lineage of the best of lineages, which is the lineages of the prophets and messengers. The Messenger of Allah came from lineages of the prophets and messengers. The Messenger of Allah was known before the wahi even started of being the most truthful and the most noblest and the most trustworthy of people of his whole community. Before the revelation started, right before the advent of the revelation, when it started, Allah made the signs clear, so when it started, no one would have no reluctancy in rejecting it. The Messenger of Allah was not known to practice magic. The Messenger of Allah was not known to be a liar. The Messenger of Allah, to the end of those with the most praiseworthy characteristics that any human being can have, he had it. Abu Talib knew this. Clearly, in the back of his mind, he knew it, absolutely. No doubt, as we talked about in the poetry. And despite of that, he rejected it based upon some blind fanaticism. And as a result of it, Allah punished him with deprivation of what? Of being properly guided. Which came as a result of it, he was put in the hellfire. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Jayyid. So it says, Ya ma'ashal ikhwa, that Abu Talib also knew the meaning of La ilaha illallah. This is where I stopped at a couple of minutes ago. That he knew that the meaning of La ilaha illallah is to worship, to leave off Allah, worship Allah alone, and leaving off anything that's associated as partners along with Allah in his worship. He knew that. Knew that the meaning of La ilaha illallah is tark ibadati ghayrillah, was to leave off the worship other than Allah. He knew that. So keep in mind, why am I saying this? Keep in mind that Abu Talib, despite of him dying in a state of kufr, his understanding of La ilaha illallah was better than a lot of the Muslims these days, who believe that the meaning of La ilaha illallah is just to have knowledge about Allah. To have knowledge about Allah, that suffices. No more, no less. That the meaning of La ilaha illallah is that there's no Rabb, there's no Lord except Allah, there's no Creator except Allah, there's no Provider except Allah. That's it. A lot of the Muslims, especially the Jamhur al-Asha'ira, except the majority of those from the deviant sects called the Asha'ira, believe this. They believe that La ilaha illallah is that no one is the Lord other than Allah. Meaning that there's no provider, there's no sustainer, there's no creator except Allah. This is the belief of the majority of the Asha'ira of today. They explain and say that the meaning of La ilaha illallah is Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, which is not correct, like we talked about, Ya ma'ash al-Ikhwa, because if that was the case, that would mean necessitate that Abu Talib was what? Properly guided, because he believed that. But the thing that he did not embrace was what? The worship of Allah Ta'ala alone, as we talked about. Abu Talib believed that the meaning of La ilaha illallah, which is the correct meaning of what the Messenger of Allah was calling to, he knew what it meant. That's the reason why he didn't utter it. Hence, he already believed in Rububiyyah and the Lordship of Allah. And if that was the case, based upon the belief of the Asha'ira, that would necessitate that Abu Talib was Muslim. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? That would necessitate that Abu Talib was Muslim because he had knowledge about Allah. Because his, like we said, his belief in the category of the Lordship of Allah was sound, it was intact. It was not what? It was not perverted and it was not tainted with. It was not tainted. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So that's the reason why, like we said, it's sad to say that you'll find that a lot of the mushrikeen during the time of the Message of Allah knew the meaning of La ilaha illallah, that it is what Ahlul Sunnah calls to and the Salafiyeen, the people of the truth, call to, which is that there's nothing worthy of worship in truth except Allah. The mushrikeen during the time of the Prophet ﷺ believed that 100%. They did not believe of how a lot of the deviant sects of the Muslims of today believe. Especially at the head of them is the Jamhur al-Asha'ira. At the head of them is the majority of the deviant sects entitled the Asha'ira. That said that the meaning of La ilaha illallah is Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. We said, and we will say this over and over again until this sticks in your memories. That's the reason why I repeat it. Yet, we believe in Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, without a doubt. But however, that's not enough for enter one in the fold of Islam. It's not enough until one unifies Allah in his worship and leaving off anything that's associated along with Allah as worship with him. in the aspect of ibadah, in which you'll find, like we said, a lot of those from the scholars of the Asha'ira, they will even say, if you go to some of their countries, they even will say to you, that is it permissible to swear by other than Allah? They will say yes. I don't listen to those people that say it's permissible, but you got to just swear by Allah and that's it. Those are little people. They're very, very rigid and they're very strict in their belief system. He said there's no such thing as shirk these days. As far as swearing by other, what about the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? بِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ فَقَدْ أَشْرَكَ وَقَدْ كَفَرَ أَوْ أَشْرَكَ. Whoever swears by other than Allah, then he's either committed shirk or kufr. What about those ahadith? We don't see that. We don't see that to be the case. For the majority of the Muslims now that hear this from who they consider and deem to be trustworthy and taking their knowledge from, because these people who are supposed to be responsible for teaching people and enlightening them and cultivating them in their religion. So you hear this nonsense and they're now disseminating this type of batil, this false knowledge to the people, so they corrupt their minds, which as a result of it, what everyone, they believe and embrace it. That's one of the reasons why, like you'll find, that the ulama are very cautious in declaring these people to be what? Unbelievers. Why? Because, like we talked about on many occasions, we said there are evil scholars that have misled the Muslims. And this is one of the mawani', one of those protective barriers that keeps them in the fold of Islam. From those protective barriers is a shubha. It's a doubtful matter, an ambiguity that's affected their what? Belief system. That's why you'll find that if we was to go to Egypt and these places and we landed them, we would not declare to say that these people are kuffar. That's the strongest opinion. Based upon what? Because of a shubha, a doubtful matter or ambiguity that's affected them. From them is those evil scholars that are misleading them. And at the head of their sha'ira, they say this to them. Don't believe those people who are Wahhabis. Don't believe those Wahhabis. Don't listen to the Wahhabis. They say that you're only supposed to swear by Allah and that's it. Don't believe that. What we're calling to is Tawheed. What we're calling to is monotheism. The meaning of La ilaha illallah, that there's no Lord except Allah, or there's no judge except Allah, or there's no sustainer except Allah. There's no one that gives life or death except Allah. This is the meaning of Tawheed. And you can say to them, if that was the case, then why was Abu Talib considered and died in a state of kufr? Because this was his belief, and it did not suffice him. Where it validated or it what? Entered him in the fold of Islam. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? If that was the case, then all of the mushrikeen during the time of the Prophet ﷺ would all been Muslim. Without the Messenger of Allah, what? Calling them. Because they all believe that category of monotheism. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Is everyone with me? Or is everyone a little sleepy? I was going to teach you guys my type of diet that makes you energized, makes your brain work at 1,000 miles an hour. Huh? Tayyib. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Tayyib. So what we're saying is that if that was the case of rububiyyah, of Allah ta'ala, was correct, and that was the interpretation of La ilaha illallah based upon what these people falsehood believe from the Asha'ira, that would now necessitate what? Abu Talib was Muslim. All of the mushrikeen during the time of the Prophet ﷺ were all Muslim. Also likewise, Iblis is a mu'min and a Muslim. Rather, you'll find that Iblis, the shaitan himself, is the most knowledgeable of the khalq, of the creation of Allah, about Allah. Iblis is one of the most knowledgeable about Allah. And despite of that, he's still from the shaitan, it's accursed. That would necessitate now that Iblis is what? Is a believer. Because he believes in the rububiyyah of Allah. And he also knows that Tawheed is what's correct. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? As I talked about the ayat, Iblis himself will say on the day of resurrection, affirming the rububiyyah of Allah and affirming that Tawheed is correct. Shaitan is going to say that on the day of resurrection. This is the dalil. Listen to what Allah says about the shaitan. وَقَالَ الشَّيْطَانُ لَمَّا قُضِيَ الْأَمْرِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَعَدَكُمْ وَعْدَ الْحَقِّ وَوَعَدْتُكُمْ فَأَخْلَفْتُكُمْ وَمَا كَانَ لِي عَلَيْكُمْ مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ إِلَّا دَعَوْتُكُمْ فَاسْتَجَبْتُمْ لِي فَلَا تُلُومُونِي لُومُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ مَا أَنَا بِمُصْرِخِكُمْ وَمَا أَنْتُمْ بِمُصْرِخِي إِنِّي كَفَرْتُ بِمَا أَشْرَكْتُمُونِي مِنْ قَبْلِ إِنَّ الظَّالِمِينَ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Shaitan will say when the affair has been concluded, meaning that Shaitan will enter the hellfire. And those who followed him, from his followers and his minions and his soldiers, Well, all of them went into hell who followed him. Listen what the shaitan will say. Verily, Allah has promised you the promise of truth. I promised you, I betray my promise. I take it back. I had no power over you except I called you, you answered me. Don't blame me, blame yourself. I can't save you, you can't save me. Listen to what he says. It goes on to say, verily I disbelieved in which you set up in partners along with Allah in worship. What is shaitan affirming here? The rububiyyah and the uluhiyyah of Allah. Shaitan believes in the rububiyyah, uluhiyyah of Allah. No, that's what's correct. Verily, I totally disbelieve in which you set up in partners along with Allah in His worship. Verily, those who are upon shirk have the most terrible torment. The zalimeen meaning the mushrikeen, the people of kufr. So that is to show that what? Based upon the belief of shaitan and the belief of the mushrikeen and the belief of Iblis and all those who are upon kufr, you'll find that based upon what a lot of the Muslims believe, especially from the Sufi and the Sha'ira, even Abu Talib, are all what? Believers. Is that correct? No. Which is to show what, everyone? That all, or what is the correct belief and the correct meaning of La ilaha illallah, that there's no deity worthy of what? Worship, in truth, except Allah. So that's to show clearly in the hadith that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this particular narration. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب. So now if you go on in the same narration, it goes on to say that Allah, because the Prophet ﷺ said to his uncle in his deathbed, if you look in your books, that it says, لَأَسْتَغْفِرَنَّ لَكَ مَا لَمْ أُنْهَ عَنْكَ, that I will seek your forgiveness as long as I am not prohibited. And Allah Ta'ala sent down the ayah, مَا كَانَ لِلنَّبِيِّ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يَسْتَغْفِرُوا لِلْمُشْرِكِينَ وَلَوْ كَانُوا أُولِي قُرْبَى مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُمْ أَصْحَابُ الْجَحِيمِ. نسأل الله يعافينا وإياكم. It says in the ayah, they say, I will seek my forgiveness. As we know that the Prophet ﷺ, during his time, from the good, perfect, exemplary character that he possessed, alayhi salatu wasalam, what's the problem? Just leave him. Just leave him for now. He looks like he's comfortable. The next step is, he makes me want to lay there. I think he look comfortable. طيب. So he's just, even you agree, he's like, yeah, he does look comfortable. طيب. So it says in this regard that he says about the mushrikeen that at the message of Allah. Now, from his exemplary character, alayhi salatu wasalam, and his perfect etiquette and manners, anyone that did excellence to him or treated him very well, he would give and treat them very well. He would, in return, as a reciprocal, he would treat them very well. And treat them with and be hospitable. And the best of reward that he could give to his uncle was to try to guide him. And point him and redirect him and also give him advice and clarify to him and try to save him from hell. And that's what the message of Allah said here. When it says clearly in the ayah, it says, verily I will seek forgiveness for you as long as I'm not prohibited. Right, everyone? And this is exactly what his father did, who was before him. Khalil ar-Rahman, who, everyone? Ibrahim. Ibrahim, who didn't bite his fingernails. You'll find that he did not. That he said that you'll find that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ did exactly what Ibrahim did. When his father became clear that he was an enemy of Allah, فَلَمَّا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ أَنَّهُ عَدُوٌ لِلَّهِ تَبَرَّأَ مِنْهُ إِنَّ إِبْرَاهِيمَ لَكَانَ أَوَّاهًا حَلِيمًا or إِنَّ إِبْرَاهِيمَ لَأَوَّاهٌ حَلِيمٌ. And Allah Ta'ala said, Prophet ﷺ here in this ayah did exactly what Ibrahim did. Said about his father that I will seek forgiveness for you until Allah Ta'ala sent down the ayah that when it became clear that his own father was an enemy of Allah, he separated himself from him. فَلَمَّا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ أَنَّهُ عَدُوٌ لِلَّهِ تَبَرَّأَ مِنْهُ إِنَّ إِبْرَاهِيمَ لَأَوَّاهٌ حَلِيمٌ. Became an enemy of Allah, he separated himself from him. Verily, Ibrahim was awwahun halim. Verily, he was the one that was constantly making tawbah to Allah. He was forbearing. عليه الصلاة عليه وعلى نبينا أفضل الصلاة وتم التسليم. But anyway, for your fun, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, going back to the story, the Prophet ﷺ did what? The same thing. Until Allah Ta'ala sent down the ayah, and we'll talk about how the science of how the ayat and the verses that were sent down, the reasons for it being sent down could be more than one reason. Keep that in mind. Could be more than one reason. أسباب النزول قد تتعدد. The reasons for why ayats were revealed could be more than one reason. Keep that in mind. I'll explain it later. Just keep that in your pocket for now. Trust me. Just keep that in your pocket for now. Person would say, how? Don't worry, I'm going to talk about explain it later. Don't worry. Just keep it in your mind. Fine. So the ayat was sent down. So he said, Allah Ta'ala sent down the ayat. If you look in your book, what does it say? It is not for that the Prophet, nor those who believe, seek forgiveness for the mushrikeen. Is that after it's been made clear that they are the inhabitants of hell. Is this only restricted everyone to while they're alive or while they're dead or while they're alive? Can you seek forgiveness for them? Or is it for both? What do you say, Ja'far? What do you say? What do you say, Caden? Jayed. Excellent answer. Both. It's not permissible to seek forgiveness for a person that's upon disbelief or polytheism, not while they're alive nor after their death. Especially after their death, when it's been made clear what they died upon. Especially. But during their life also. The person that's upon polytheism, it's not permissible to what, everyone? Seek their forgiveness. However, it is permissible to ask Allah to guide them. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? It's permissible to ask Allah to guide them. It's permissible. Make dua that Allah guide them. Guide their heart. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Jayyid. So we say in this regard, alhamdulillah, I want to do it because a person probably said, well, where do you get this from? It says it right here, but I don't want to read it right yet. Not yet. Well, how the reasons why eyes can be revealed could be more than one reason. And it's right in front of our face. طيب. So what you say, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, in this regard, to show that during the life of a mushrik or a person that's upon disbelief, it's not permissible to seek their forgiveness while they're alive, and especially after they die, where it's been made clear where their abode became and what was their inevitable outcome of what they died upon. You'll see, if that was the case, then it's not permissible to what? It's not forgiveness to seek forgiveness for them based upon this ayah. And what happened with Abu Talib. So the message of Allah when he was prohibited, of course we know, he stopped alayhi salatu wasalam, carrying out the ayah in which Allah Ta'ala had revealed this prohibition. That one not seek forgiveness for those who died in the state of disbelief of kufr. Whether being alive or after their death. Right, now, if you turn the page, let's read the Masail. Yes. Who wants to read the first mas'ala or the first issue or the first تفضل يا I was about to call you Ja'far. تفضل Jamal. Question. What type of love is this that's mentioned in the ayah? This is a clear ayah to show there's a type of love that is permissible. What type of love is mentioned here? Notice Allah affirmed love for the message of Allah. And one being guided here. General love, as Umar said. Conditional love, what do we call it? Ahsant. Natural love. Al-mahabbat al-tabi'iyya. So the natural love is permissible. Is it clear? Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Natural love for your mother, your father, what have you. That's permissible. As for al-mahabbat al-diniyya al-imaniyya, that is impermissible. To love them in a religion which is the strongest of faith and the strongest of bonds that will bind you to an individual, to love them on a higher level, that is not for them. But the natural love you can have for them. Is it clear what I'm saying? So what Allah Ta'ala was affirming for the message of Allah here, and write this down in your books. I don't know why you guys are not writing. You can even write it in the same book that you have that the love that's affirmed here in this ayah is the natural love. Is the natural love. It's the natural love. Not the what? Not the love of what, everyone? Of what they call al-mahabbatu ad-diniyya, al-imaniyya. The mahabba of ad-diniyya, of the religious love of iman, of faith. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Which is the highest form of love. That you do not deserve that. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? And you'll find that some of the Sahaba, in the time of battle and war, that they even fought some of their own relatives. And you'll find there were certain Sahaba that even killed them as a result of it. Now, you'll find stories where they even were backed in the corner, and it says in the narration, upon the great Sahabi, who was guaranteed paradise. The great Sahabi, Abu Amr, Abu Ubaidah, Amr ibn al-Jarrah. Now, Abu Ubaidah ibn Amr al-Jarrah, killed his own father. In which he backed up from. And he didn't want to do it. And he was in a battle, kept refusing, and kept rejecting and running from it to the much as he could. Until he was forced in a situation where he had to kill his own father. Until Allah revealed the ayah. One of the reasons why the ayah was revealed, لا تجد قومين يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر يوادون من حاد الله ورسوله ولو كانوا آباءهم أو أبناءهم أو إخوانهم أو عشيرتهم أولئك كتب في قلوبهم الإيمان وأيدهم بروح منه ويدخلهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه أولئك حزب الله ألا إن حزب الله هم المفلحون. Allah Ta'ala said down the ayah, you will never find any people that believe in Allah on the last day, يُوَادُّونَ مَنْ حَادَّ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ, making love with those who make enmity and war with Allah and His Messenger. Even if they was their own what? Their own father, and their own children, and their own brothers, and their own family, or so on and so forth. أُولَٰئِكَ كَتَبَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمُ الْإِيمَانِ. They are those who Allah has truly written the Iman in their hearts. And He will enter them into paradise, which rivers will be flowing from underneath it, and they will abide there forever. Allah is pleased with them, and they are pleased with Allah. They are the Hizbullah, they are party of Allah. In the party of Allah, they will be victorious and successful. So that's to show you, ma'ashal ikhwa, is to show that what happened with some of the Sahaba, what they had to go through to show how their high level of faith and how they were the greatest of creation after all the prophets and messengers, in which Shaykh al-Islam said about them, مَا كَانُوا وَلَمْ يَكُونُوا مِثْلَهُمْ. He says there was never like, and there will never be anyone like them. مَا كَانُوا وَلَا يَكُونُوا مِثْلَهُمْ. There was never no one, nowhere there'll never be anyone like them. Show everyone, see all the respect the Sahaba is given. Of what to show their high level of how their faith, high level is, because they were put in these type of circumstances. And they passed the test with some tremendous tests. Where one's father will be cornered, his own father, biological father, in a battle, in war, fighting your own relative. And despite of that, because of your iman, your belief in Allah and the hereafter, caused you to be in a position where you would have to even what? Will have to fight him. That is somebody of a test. That is a tremendous test. One of those highest levels of what? Of tests there is. That you will have to be put in a corner with your own biological blood, of which you have some natural love for, and despite of your love for Allah and Messenger, giving precedence to that, will you be forced to kill him? You understand, everyone? That is a very difficult circumstance. Is it clear what I'm saying so far? Fine. So that's to show now, even in this regard, you'll find that the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah Ta'ala said down the ayah, Allah, what? You do not guide, meaning, which category? You do not guide, or for what we affirming and negated? Which categories? What is being negated? What is being affirmed for the message of Allah is which category, everyone? And what's being negated? Which category of hidayah? Huh? Number 2 is affirmed. Is it affirmed or negated? It's affirmed. Great. Second category of hidayah, which we talked about, is the guidance of what? Of clarification. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is affirming here for the message of Allah. But at the same time, He's negating another category, which is what? Which is the guidance of the what? Of the heart, which is the third category we mentioned. Right, everyone? Because we talked about how Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned there's 4 categories. I got a little bit more detail, what we're accustomed and acclimated to hearing. But Ibn al-Qayyim gets a little bit more what? Deeper as far as guidance. There are 4 types. And go back to the notes and review for what we mentioned in the previous class. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Tayyib. So the message of Allah, despite of him having that natural love, Allah Ta'ala says, you do not guide whom you love. However, Allah Ta'ala guides whom He wills. Those ayat in which Allah Ta'ala says He guides whom He wills, also keep in mind, Caden and Camden, keep in mind that it is a refutation against another deviant sect called the Qadariyah. There is no ayah where Allah affirms where He guides the one, where he's in a state of misguidance and He guides him, or misguides one when he's in a state of guidance, except it is a refutation against them. Any ayah where Allah says He guides whom He wills is to show without any shadow of a doubt that Allah has ultimate power over everything in the heavens and the earth, including the hearts of the people. And which is based upon, a person will say, well, how does that refute the Qadariyah? What's their belief? Their belief is Allah has no will over the creation. Which comes as a result of it that Allah cannot guide one who's misguided, nor can He misguide one who's guided. That's the belief of the Qadariyah. In the book of Allah is a refutation against that ideology, where Allah couples and puts together the hidayah of Allah along with His qadr, which is from the absolute, precise category of the rububiyyah of Allah. And Allah puts them all together. Which ayat is that? In which you hear in Jumu'ah every Friday. You hear it. But if you was to really contemplate on the meanings, it is tremendous. Allah Ta'ala, as we talked about last class, Allah says in His book, سَبِّحِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ الْأَعْلَى الَّذِي خَلَقَ فَسَوَّى وَالَّذِي قَدَّرَ فَهَدَى. قَدَّرَ فَهَدَى. Allah paired up guidance along from it being from His qadr, from His divine decree and destiny. He put them together. Why? Because, like we said, the guidance of the heart is also from the what? What Allah has written and what He has destined and what He has His divine decree and His destiny, that the guidance is from that. It's from the qadr of Allah. It's from the guidance. It's from the destiny, the divine decree, the predetermination of Allah Ta'ala, what He's ordained in His divine decree. Hidayah is from that. And we know that the qadr of Allah is from the rububiyyah of Allah. It is all from His rububiyyah, from His lordship. It goes back to that. It's from the absolute perfect of what? Lordship of Allah Ta'ala. It all goes back to His lordship subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one being guided, all is a refutation. You'll find that Ahl Ilm, when they engage, or when they took on the refutation against the Qadariyah, they came at them from this aspect. They say, you based upon this, saying that if you believe that Allah has no will over the creation, that means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not have the ability to guide anyone who's misguided or misguide anyone who's guided. So you'll find that they're based upon that ayah. They say that the guidance of the heart is linked with what? The qadr. That's how they refuted the Qadariyah in this aspect. Why? Because His hidayah is from His what? It's from His qadr. See, over your heads, was it clear what I'm saying? Is it over your heads? Was it clear what I'm saying? Was it not clear? EB? Don't think I don't see you behind the chair. Huh? Is it clear or is it not clear? You with me? You'll just say just to get over the goodbye. Is it clear or is it not clear? If I was to ask you, would you say it back? I'll say it again. Allah, as we know, the belief of the Qadariyah, they believe the will from the deviant ideologies of the Qadariyah, the deviant sect called the Qadariyah, Allah has no will over the creation. There's no will over the creation. They take the will of Allah, get rid of it. So that means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, things happen in His existence that He has no knowledge of, no control over, no will over it, nothing. That's the belief of the Qadariyah. So they stripped the greatest, who's Allah, the supreme, the total dominant. Basically now they now made Allah incomplete. Sheesh, I knew that was the next thing coming. This is to show, ya ma'ashar al-ikhwa, that the belief of Ahl al-Bid'ah brings down Allah. And the belief of the people of Kufr also bring down Allah. They now have said what? Allah is incomplete. Even though they think in their minds they're complete and saying that Allah is glorified, not realizing that what they're doing is still at the same time as what? That Allah Ta'ala what? Has some type of what? Deficiency. From the Christians, from the Jews, from the Magians, you name it. There's no type of belief you can bring and put out here and present it, except if you really pry to their belief system, they're actually what? They're actually saying and ascribing to Allah what? Deficiencies. The deviant sects, the Qadariyah. How did I get in the Qadariyah? The Qadariyah, let's talk about the Hidayah. The Qadariyah have now said that Allah Ta'ala is not able to what? He doesn't have no will over the creation. This belief, ya ma'ashar al-ikhwa, necessitates a lot of things. That Allah Ta'ala has no control. From the Qadariyah who believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no awareness of what takes place until it actually takes place. Isn't this not ascribing to Allah imperfections? Isn't this ascribing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala some type of what? Discrepancy? Incompleteness? Huh? Caden? No. All these affairs is ascribing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what? Deficiencies. This type of belief. Right or wrong? If you're saying that Allah does not have things happen in this existence He has no will over, meaning killing takes place, good takes place, these things take place in this existence, either Allah is not aware of it, or He has no knowledge of it, or He has no way to what? Control it. Huh? What is that ascribing to Allah? Deficiencies. Incompleteness. Incompleteness in His rububiyyah. You understand? Tayyib. You see why you get inside the aqeedah, the belief system of the people? Because there's people out here that believe this nonsense. That's the reason why you got to rewire the minds of the people. Take their rewiring and rewire it. You understand? Tayyib. So now you see in this regard, what did we say? The Qadariyah say the will of Allah, He has no will over the creation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so now they're saying that, or they're ascribing to Allah imperfection in the aspect of His rububiyyah, His lordship. So now, which comes as a result of it, a lot of different things, such as Allah cannot guide what, everyone? One who's misguided. And Allah cannot misguide the one who's what? Guided. Because all of this is from His rububiyyah. Allah knows best. Allah knows best. You will find that all the ideologies that people believe that is incorrect, that opposes the revelation, is in the book of Allah a refutation against that particular group. To show how Allah perfectly revealed the Quran precisely, preparing the people to be properly guided and attaining an correct understanding, at the same time refuting deviant sects and falsehood when it came at its time. It's showing that Allah's knowledge with what? Had not perfect knowledge of what was going to take place. That this type of nonsense was going to come. That there were going to be people that utters this nonsense. So now if you get back to the book of Allah, Allah revealed the ayat, which is what we recite in Jumu'ah every Friday. From that Allah says, وَالَّذِي قَدَّرَ فَهَدَى. The one who who now, the one who came with the divine decree and destined certain affairs for the creation, and he also guided them. Notice Allah paired up what, everyone? Guidance from his absolute what? From his qadr. So guidance of the heart is from the qadr, which is refutation against the qadariyah. So in the same breath, we know that the qadr of Allah is from his absolute perfect rububiyyah, which shows that Allah Ta'ala has full power and domination over everything, full awareness, full knowledge of what takes place within his creation and what he has written for the creation to happen to them. Allah Ta'ala has full control of what takes place with the creation, even though he's given them the choice to choose between what is good and evil, even though their will falls behind his. But it's a refutation against the qadariyah, because keep in mind, I want everybody to remember this part, and I'm going to stop here. The qadr of Allah is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's absolute perfect rububiyyah. It's all connected to each other. Everything is connected with rububiyyah of Allah. Does it go outside of that? Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? The divine decree and the destiny of Allah is connected with his qadr. It's connected with rububiyyah. Is it clear what I'm saying? If Allah has written everything out, it shows that he's perfect in his knowledge. So he's perfect in his awareness to everything. He's perfect, and he has absolute control of what happens in his creation, what he allows to happen, and what he allows to take place, of good and evil, according to what he wants in this existence. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Is it clear or not? I wanted to get inside takfir because there was a masala talking about takfir in here. We're going to talk about that next class. طيب, we'll stop here. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Any questions about the lesson, anyone? تفضل جماعة. There's a lot of some stories about the Sahaba when they were in the battles.